My great-grandfather um, immigrated from Germany. I'm not sure the year, but sent 3 of his 9 children over here ahead of himself. They all did various things. Most of them were farmers of some sort. But my grandfather was one of the children that got sent, and he bought this farm where I currently reside in like 1932, and it was a 90-acre farm, and that's all he farmed his entire life: milked cows and fed cattle and raised hogs. And then my father took over from him and obviously ran his own operation also, and added about 500 more acres to the operation. And he retired at the age of about 72. And then he and I had our own operations separately, but helped each other and shared equipment up until his retirement. And then, of course, I took over and I moved to the home family farm. I think it was in about 1994. And then I've added 850 acres to the original operation. And currently 60 years old, and have a son who's 36 years old and is a farmer, has his own operation that he and I help each other and work together and share machinery. And he farms about 400 acres here in Illinois. And then he bought a farm in south central Ohio, and he farms in 2 states. And then together we both custom finish pork for a family out of Iowa, and we have about 16,000 pigs on feed between the two of us. So that's kind of the backstory of our operation. We crop wise, we raise corn and soybeans. We do a little bit of cover crop. Try to do some regenerative ag practices to try and reduce some herbicide usage and pesticide usage. And we're really only about this is probably the third year that we've done some of these different practices. That we're forever learning different things about it, and just trying to be proactive and feel that ag will go more to that style of farming, less pesticide use, less commercial fertilizer, and we think that's more sustainable for agriculture. All right, so these barns they're facing here. There's 3 of them. They were built in 1998. Um, they're considered a naturally ventilated barn, so there's just curtains all the way around, and then the chimneys on the top, so they just get natural airflow through the buildings. So the curtains raise or lower depending on temperature. So the temperature in the barn is maintained at all times. Obviously, in the summertime, whatever the outside temperature is, that's what it is in the barns. Um, so that's kind of the old technology in pork production. Um, the one that we're looking at over here to our right, that was built in 2005 originally. It actually burnt down in 2014. So we removed everything other than that has a pit underneath of it that stores the manure. So that was not damaged. And then we just built from there up again. But that's considered a tunnel ventilated barn, and you can probably hear the fans running. Those run on the sides of the building. They run all the time. That's what they call the minimum ventilation. So it's pulling air in from the top for the fresh air for the animals. And on the very south end is a curtain like the barns we looked at previous. And in the summertime, when it gets warm, that opens up. And then there are a bunch of large fans on the north side that actually pull the air through the building. So it too, in the summertime, it's about whatever the temperature is outside. It's a little cooler than that because it's shade, and then the breeze in there going through makes it very comfortable. So that's pretty much the most modern technology in pork production today. Um, the pigs perform about equally as well in either style building. Um, the benefits of the natural ventilated building is they're very safe. There's just a very small manure pit inside the barn that every day we run a scraper and it removes the manure from the building and goes into a reception pit. And I don't know if you want to swing around here with your camera, but that manure then goes into a reception pit there and then pumps in over the top of the slurry store. So that blue structure there is what's holding the manure for these natural ventilated buildings. And that tank holds about 1.4 million gallons of manure.
People come and like pump it out.
We actually own our own pumping equipment, so every fall we empty the slurry store and the deep pit under the big building, and we use that as that's our fertilizer source for all of our crops. Not all of our crops, but we can fertilize about 900 acres with manure. So we buy no commercial fertilizer for those acres, and we try and pump every third year, so it will rotate uh, where we pump manure, so we're not pumping the same fields over and over, which you could run into a scenario if you were putting on too many gallons. You would raise your phosphorus readings to a high level, which is not a good thing for the environment. So yeah, so we try and get that all done in the fall. We use what is called a drag line system, which is a big manure pump that actually, for the slurry store, it has a boom that goes up and over the side of the tank, and it sucks the manure out and pushes it out into a hose. And the hose is strung across the field, hooked to a tractor, and we drag that back and forth as we pump. Um, it's a very efficient way to move manure. There's many ways to do it, but the other way most popular is tankers. They're just big tanks that they load the tank with manure and then drive to the field and then pump it off. And then, of course, they have to drive back. And you can imagine, I think one of the larger tanks in the industry now is maybe 10,000 gallons. So that's 1,400,000. So that's a lot of trips. So I've never really done the math of how long that would take to do it in that fashion, but we can empty that with our drag line system in about 20 hours. Um, so yeah, that's how we handle the manure. So,
So like, what does your average day look like when it comes to like the animals?
average day, so you come down, we go into the office building, which there is a computer system in there that monitors all aspects of the facility, the air temperature, how much water they're drinking, how much feed they're eating. Um, and then, of course, we keep track of our inventory through there. So, how many pigs we place, We record every time we ship loads, every time we have a mortality, we record those. Um, so that would be our first step, is to walk in. Does the computer tell us something is wrong? And it could be anything from, okay, a temperature looks a little bit too high. You go troubleshoot, why is this? Or water usage is a little low, which may indicate a animal health issue. So you monitor the animals to make sure they look good and healthy, and that's not the case. And then obviously, if it's looking like they haven't ate as much feed as what they had been the previous day, things like this, just to give yourself an idea of the overall health of the pigs. And then from there, then we literally walk through each barn, trying to look at each individual pig. Every day is the goal, and to make sure that everyone is good. Obviously, not every day is that way. You'll have a mortality, you'll have one that may be a little lethargic, maybe a cough, that they'll get an individual treatment for their cough or a fever or something to that nature. Or they may have a leg that got hurt somehow, and if that is the case, then we move them into a pen that we call a sick pen to let them recover from in there. Um, and basically, then you're just verifying that all equipment is functioning the way it should be. The waters are all operational, the feeders all are operational, and you adjust the feeder so that there's just a certain amount of feed in the trough. If you have it opened up too much, the pigs will actually waste feed, which is obviously not a good thing. It just ends up in the pit and not utilized. So we try and maintain a 50% coverage of the feed trough, and then that is pretty much keeps all the feed in the feeder, and obviously into the pig. And so at the end of the day, our job as a custom finishing operation is to make sure the pigs are cared for as best possibly can be, that they're getting as much feed as they possibly can eat, and all the water that they want to drink, so that their performance is based on daily gain. How much weight do they gain a day? I know for someone like me, it's not a problem. I can eat and I can just keep gaining. A pig is the same way. Um, and at the end of the day, that's what this operation of the pork industry is food. And so you're trying to get the most pounds of pork for the least amount of feed as possible to be the most efficient. And then, like I said, I should have backed up. So the pigs come in here at a roughly about 10 pounds. So at 10 pounds, that's the size of just a nice sized cat. So you can imagine, they're not very big. And that's when a lot of the initial care comes in for these animals, because they have just been weaned from their mother. They've never ate dry food. They've never drank. Well, I couldn't say never. They weren't, their main source of fluid was their mother's milk. Now it's water. Now we have nipple waters in the barn that simulate mom, and they take to it very fast. Um, those pigs come in on semi trailers, roughly about 1,500 pigs per load. Um, so these first small barns that we viewed, they each hold 1,200 head. Um, this large barn over here to the other side, that one actually holds 4,000 head. So there's two rooms in that building. It's divided down the center. So it takes, so I would, on normal fill time, it would take about 5 weeks to fill this site. to full capacity. Um, and that is based on whatever the sow farm is putting out for newborns. So, but it's generally about 1,500 a week.
So how long do you like typically have the animals here?
That's a good question. We hope that they are here for about 150 days. We hope that they've reached their ideal weight for market, which that varies a little bit, but currently the integrator that I work with that owns the pigs, their target weight is about 285 pounds. So we're at this site right now is actually going through, we have been shipping for about 3 weeks now. I believe we're supposed to have the entire site empty the 17th of this month. Or excuse me, we'll be empty the 10th of this month, and then we restock with new pigs on the 17th, starting the 17th. So that's when the bulk of the work comes in at this site, because we go in and we identify the largest pigs in the group, and we mark those, and those go on the truck every week. Sometimes, like I think this week we had 6 loads of market pigs. So every day we'd go through and identify we can roughly put 170 pigs on a semi load of market weight pigs. So we identify that 170 and then try and load those every day. And like I said, till we're empty, then we go through and we completely clean each barn top to bottom. It's all pressure washed. Then we disinfect it for any kind of pathogens, any germs, anything like that. Just try and eliminate those as best we can. And then, like I said, bring the new pigs in and start the cycle over again. So we roughly do this twice, a little more than twice a year. So other than that, unless you have any questions that I can answer.
If there was someone that wanted to get like a pig farm or like field farming started, what advice would you give them? Like a new farmer.
A beginning farmer, I'll be honest with you, that if you're starting from scratch, it would be extremely difficult. It Farming has gotten so capital intensive to buy a piece of land, just around here, locally, an acre of land probably sells for somewhere between 12,000 an acre to $15,000 an acre. So from an advice standpoint, I would say try and marry a farmer's daughter. I'm joking when I say that, but I think there's going to be opportunity for people to come in for to operations, because if say a person like myself, if I didn't have a son or a daughter that was interested, I would still like to see my operation carry on, and I would try and partner with someone to help them get involved and get them started, because that's all they need. If they have the desire, to do it, and they're willing to put in the time and the effort, I think there are people out there, that farmers out there, that would mentor those people and help them into the industry. Um, I guess that would be my best advice is, you know, with social media getting out there, that, hey, I'm a young, energetic person, and I really would like to get into, pork production or beef production or row crop production. And is there anybody out there that needs labor that I can trade for, some equity, basically? But that would, I guess, be my best advice off the top of my head. And I do. I think it's very doable because I'm not even sure today the average age of the farmer. I think it's somewhere 55 ish. Um, so, we can't do it forever.
Right. Yeah.
I'm 60 currently, and I realistically, on my own, I would say, my years are numbered. I would say in the next 5 years or less that I probably would like to, really step back and not do quite as much as I do now. And I've been doing this since I was, eight. Well, working for my father as a child growing up, but on my own since I, 18. Started milking cows and raising beef and those kind of things, and to what I'm currently doing. So, and I have outside labor for the pig farm. Person's been with me quite a long time. He does the day-to-day chores that we talked about when you asked what my average day would look like. He's doing that on the daily basis, and I'm basically helping with the loading pigs or sorting pigs, or if they need some maintenance done. There's always something to fix on these properties, and then of course when he wants time off, then I'm the fill in and do that. So, which that's the only way I could do it, with what I have for row crop production and the amount of animals. It would be more than it's more than I would want to do alone at my age. So.
So with our podcast, we like to talk about like how agriculture is evolving. So what would you say like one of the biggest practices that you used to do when you were younger? Like how severely have those kind of things changed?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and there has been a lot has changed since my youth. Um, when I helped my father raise pigs, we did it in outside lots, which was just, you had a barn, you had some fence around it with outside concrete and feeders, and they could get inside, and we bedded those with straw, and we cleaned those out by hand, so, and that was, just a never ending thing. It just was pretty much
a lot longer of a.
It took a lot longer for a lot less animals that
So
we were raising,
more efficient for sure.
Yeah, very much more efficient.
So how many do you have? Do you have a number?
There's about 7,000 in this on this whole site.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
And this pen right here that we're looking at, they have been selected. They will go to market this week. That's normal. There's your best pig impression right there.
Wow.
They're not happy I woke them up.
Yeah, they're resting.
That one has a blue eye. Look at that one has a blue eye, and then the other one is brown. That's cool.
And if you've noticed, they're predominantly white. They've purposely bred the pigs this way because when they go to the slaughter plant, the hair is translucent, so it's easier to clean up or not be detected, I guess, as maybe not the most appropriate way to put it. But yeah, it's rare for me to have a pig that is a different color, but they do obviously come in different colors. They're red, they're black and white, they're black. But predominantly for the genetics that we're receiving, they're predominantly white. I don't know, you can kind of see these little nipple waters hanging down. Those get raised and lower as the pigs grow, and then they have additional water source in each feeder in the troughs. So as you can tell, they're pretty comfortable in there. I know a lot of, yeah, they do that a lot. Hence that big blue thing over there. Which you remember, for me, that's fertilizer.
Yeah, so it's beneficial.
It's definitely beneficial for me. There's also, if it does exceed a certain temperature, there's a setting we have. If it gets too warm in the barn, there are actually sprinklers in there that will kick on to cool the pigs off. Because a pig, I don't know if you know this, they can't sweat. And the only way they can cool themselves is through respiration, through breathing. So, like I said, we will put, or those sprinklers will kick on automatically if it does exceed, I believe it's set at 87 degrees in there. They kick on, and it's pretty amazing how fast it cools them off. So yeah, like I said earlier, this size building, it holds 1,200 animals. It's 50 feet wide, and
How do you deal with like the insects, like the flies and the beetles?
there's nothing that we really do for fly control or insect control within the buildings. To be honest, I mean, there are obviously flies and insects, but not to the point where they're really hindering the animals. Um, I'm sure there are products you could probably do, but for us, the main thing is that breeze that kind of keeps them at bay from being in the building. Um,
I expected there to be more with
more flies and stuff.
like
Yeah,
more insects.
that is a big misconception, I think, from a lot of outsiders that, oh boy, your fly population is going to be out of control. But yeah, it's
worse with my horse.
yeah, yeah. There's a lot of activity, so with activity, the bugs probably just keep moving. But
One last
You were
question.
gonna ask something before we.
So you said like they spray water to cool them down.
Mhm.
Is that something that's like always been done? Because like obviously you couldn't do that to an extent for like
You mean in prior years?
Yeah.
Well, funny, we did it. This is automatic, so this has been, since these barns have been here since 1997. That's always been implemented in this style barn.
Mm-hmm.
But when we raised pigs in outside lots, if it did get extremely hot, we'd just take a garden sprinkler
Okay.
hose
Yeah.
and set it up and just run it for a certain amount of time
Yeah.
during the hottest parts of the day.
Wow.
So that's what I, really the big point I'd like to make about livestock production, today, because outside people have this idea that, the animals are not well cared for and they're not treated good. And, obviously you can see how content they are. And it, as our jobs as stewards of animals and land, being a farmer, that's there was our job as farmers. I feel the way I was raised was, you do what's best for the animal, you do what's best for the land, because at the end of the day, why would you want to not do something good for something that you make your living with? So that's a point that I want to make sure that the general public understands. I'm not saying there couldn't be isolated cases that someone does something wrong, but I would say for the most part, I feel very confident that the animals are always, they come first. And
Is there anything else you'd like to say for our podcast before we head out?
Nothing I can think of other than I hope that the younger generation will, even if they're not from an ag background base, that they would like to get involved in ag and try and find an avenue, if that's what their passion is, to seek out that opportunity, because I'm sure they're there.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.